On August 3, 2024, the world of boxing converged under a sky thick with expectation, a sky that seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. The arena was a living, breathing organism, pulsing with energy, electricity, and tension. Fans poured in from every corner of the globe, creating waves of excitement that washed over the streets leading to the venue. Journalists, analysts, trainers, and former champions filled every vantage point, each with a gaze fixed firmly on the ring where history would be written. The air was charged, a combination of adrenaline and anticipation that pressed against the lungs and made the heart pound with every passing second. Conversations faded to murmurs and then to silence, as though the very space itself were aware of the monumental clash about to unfold. Every pair of eyes was glued to the canvas, every mind imagining the stories that would emerge from this night. This was not an ordinary bout. It was the meeting of two forces whose trajectories had been destined to collide. Israil Madrimov, the Uzbek sensation whose rise had been meteoric, entered the arena as the challenger. He carried with him the weight of a nation's hopes, the quiet confidence of a fighter who knew he belonged at the pinnacle of the sport, and the hunger to prove himself against one of the greatest champions of his era. His eyes, steady and unflinching, bore the calm intensity of a man who had trained for this very moment his entire life. Across the ring stood Terence "Bud" Crawford, undefeated, untouchable, and revered in equal measure. His career was a testament to precision, intelligence, and flawless execution. He had dismantled opponent after opponent, leaving in his wake a trail of doubt turned into awe and skepticism turned into admiration. Crawford's mastery of distance, timing, adaptation, and controlled aggression made him seem untouchable on paper. And yet, the atmosphere hinted at something different, something intangible that could not be measured in records or statistics. Crawford entered the ring with the stoic composure of a seasoned champion. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. Yet, beneath that serene exterior flickered a subtle intensity, a recognition that his opponent was no ordinary fighter. Madrimov moved with almost eerie precision, his expression unreadable, his movements deliberate, and his energy focused entirely on the task ahead. There was a quiet authority in the way he carried himself, a sense of inevitability, as though he were stepping into the ring not just to fight but to declare his arrival on the world stage. As the referee gave final instructions, the crowd's collective breath seemed to hold, the sound of every heartbeat in the arena amplified by the weight of the moment. Their eyes met, unwavering, locked in silent calculation. Every subtle shift of weight, every blink, every millisecond of hesitation or decisiveness would matter in the fight to come. The bell rang, and the world snapped back into motion. Crawford began the fight like a general surveying a battlefield, his movements smooth and calculated. His footwork was effortless, almost gliding, and he shifted from orthodox to southpaw with seamless precision, a weapon he had honed over countless fights. Madrimov's focus was unbroken, his eyes scanning, calculating, and adapting. When Crawford snapped a sharp left hook that jolted Madrimov's head backward, the crowd gasped collectively, sensing the danger they had anticipated. Yet Madrimov did not flinch. He pressed forward, subtly maneuvering and resetting his stance with quiet determination. Every punch he threw was intentional, measured, and carried a weight that demanded acknowledgement. The first round became a study in patience and precision. Every jab, hook, and uppercut was thrown not merely to inflict damage, but to probe, to analyze, and to learn the opponent's rhythm. Crawford's punches were sharp and precise, demonstrating why he had been undefeated for so long. Madrimov's shots landed heavier, slower, and more deliberate, forcing Crawford to account for each strike. The round ended with a flurry of clean combinations from Crawford, drawing a roar from the crowd. But Madrimov's calm remained unshaken. The fight was no longer predictable. A new tension had taken root. Round 2 began with Madrimov occupying the center of the ring, stepping forward with an assertiveness that demanded attention. His posture was disciplined, his movements calculated, and his presence began to unsettle Crawford, if only subtly. Crawford circled, doubling up on his jab, probing for weaknesses like a locksmith examining the tumblers of a complex lock. Madrimov absorbed the clean 1-2 that Crawford landed, blinked once, and continued his advance as if the punches were mere obstacles in a larger strategy. Then, in a moment that shifted the fight's narrative, Madrimov unleashed 2 thunderous rights that snapped Crawford's head back violently. The arena erupted. The champion had been touched, hard, and the crowd recognized that the night would not unfold according to expectation. Madrimov's intent was clear. He would not be contained, and he would not yield. By the end of the second round, the dynamic between the fighters had changed. Crawford's control was no longer absolute. Madrimov had not yet dominated, but he had made it unmistakably clear that he would fight on his own terms. Each exchange now carried a higher intensity, a deeper meaning. The bout had become a delicate balance of skill, strategy, and sheer willpower. In round 3, Crawford moved to regain control, opening with a rapid combination. He doubled up on his jab, seeking openings, trying to reassert his dominance. Madrimov responded instantly, landing clean counters that disrupted Crawford's rhythm. Their movement became a dialogue, a silent conversation conducted through jabs, hooks, feints, and shifts in foot placement. Every punch thrown was a question, every counter a statement. The audience felt the tension tighten with each passing second, the collective breath in the arena becoming almost a physical presence. By round 4, Crawford intensified his aggression. He opened with a sharp right hand and moved in quickly, targeting both head and body. Madrimov absorbed the strikes with minor adjustments, slipping punches just enough to avoid serious damage. Crawford landed sharp rights, yet Madrimov answered with counters that reminded everyone that he was an active participant, not a passive opponent. A vicious left from Crawford cracked Madrimov's jaw, staggering him enough to force a brief clinch. Both men emerged from the round with minor injuries, but the psychological tide had shifted subtly. The narrative of inevitable dominance was no longer certain. Round 5 began with Madrimov pressing with renewed intensity. His right hand snapped out with authority, forcing Crawford to respond quickly. A looping left from Madrimov missed, and Crawford countered with a crisp 1-2 that rocked the challenger. Then came a dramatic, almost cinematic moment. Crawford stumbled backward, his footing compromised, and fell. The crowd erupted in a collective gasp. The referee ruled it a slip, but the energy in the arena shifted palpably. Madrimov pressed on, landing a clean overhand right that reminded everyone of his presence, his power, and his refusal to be an underdog. The fight was no longer Crawford's predictable march. It was a battle for narrative control, fought with every punch, step, and breath. Round 6 displayed Madrimov's tactical genius. He feinted with precision and controlled rhythm and walked Crawford toward the ropes with subtle steps that kept him unpredictable. Crawford landed a sneaky left, but Madrimov responded immediately with a stiff right, drawing cheers from the crowd. Swelling began to appear beneath Crawford's right eye, a visual reminder that Madrimov's power was tangible and dangerous. An uppercut forced Crawford to tie up briefly, buying himself a moment to recover, while Madrimov continued to dictate the pace. Though Crawford ended the round with clean body shots, the exchange felt less like a series of punches than a contest of wills, testing endurance, intelligence, and heart. Round 7 turned into a chess match at the highest level. Madrimov pressed forward, trying to trap Crawford, whose defense was airtight. Each feint and counter carried weight, a subtlety the casual observer might miss but that experts could read instantly. The crowd's impatience rose during brief pauses, but the tension was electric. Every twitch, every step, and every glance became loaded with significance. The fight was now as mental and strategic as it was physical. In round 8, Madrimov's corner urged combinations, but he remained within his rhythm, focusing on feints and controlled movement rather than reckless aggression. Crawford attempted triple jabs to disrupt the flow, but Madrimov responded with 2 precise right hands that visibly shook Crawford, forcing him to reset. Every punch, every dodge, every shift in positioning carried the weight of consequence, the fight now an intricate interplay of skill, strategy, and human resolve. Round 9 showcased Madrimov at the height of his power and precision. A hard right followed by a punishing 1-2 staggered Crawford. For the first time, the audience seemed to sense the full scale of what they were witnessing. The rise of a new elite contender, a man capable of challenging the very best. The crowd roared in recognition, their cheers punctuating the tension and drama of the unfolding fight. Round 10 exploded with urgency. Crawford attacked relentlessly, targeting both head and body. Madrimov absorbed the strikes with minimal reaction and responded with counters that demonstrated his growing confidence and strategic clarity. The exchanges were more than physical. They were mental, emotional, and psychological duels. Every punch told a story, shaped the narrative, and demanded attention. Round 11 became a symphony of skill, courage, and resilience. Madrimov's lefts met Crawford's timed combinations, each exchange intensifying the drama. Then, with stunning clarity, Crawford landed a massive counter left uppercut, staggering Madrimov but not sending him down. The crowd erupted in awe. This single moment encapsulated the essence of the fight. Crawford's brilliance met Madrimov's unyielding resolve. It was a collision of skill, courage, and spirit that would be remembered for years to come. The 12th and final round erupted with desperation, fury, and unrelenting willpower. Madrimov opened with a looping overhand left, narrowly missing its target. Crawford sensed opportunity and unleashed a barrage of uppercuts, landing flush shots that snapped Madrimov's head backward. Heavy rights followed, and yet Madrimov countered sharply, forcing Crawford to reassess and adapt. The final minute became a storm of fists, sweat, adrenaline, and sheer human determination. Neither fighter surrendered, and when the final bell rang, it marked the end of a bout that would echo in memory for decades. The scorecards reflected a razor-thin margin. Crawford had survived one of the most challenging fights of his career, preserving his undefeated record through sheer skill, strategy, and heart. Madrimov, however, had stepped from rising contender to undeniable elite, announcing himself as a fighter capable of reshaping the sport's landscape. Their battle was more than a fight. It was a crucible of human will, skill, courage, and intellect. On that night, Crawford's heart proved as legendary as his technical mastery, and Madrimov demonstrated that legends are not born. They are forged in moments of intensity, struggle, and relentless perseverance. This was not simply a fight. It was a testament to preparation, courage, and the relentless pursuit of greatness. The world watched two forces collide, two destinies intersect, and a narrative unfold that would be remembered not merely for the result, but for the intensity, skill, and spirit displayed within the ropes. The boxing world exhaled, awed and breathless, acknowledging the night as one destined for history books, a night where two men walked into the ring and carved their legacies in sweat, blood, and determination.